The clients stank of it, and the husbands stank of it, and Song could smell it on himself. Usually he turned matrimonials down, but this month he needed the money more than ever because his father was in hospital receiving treatment for bladder cancer, and the imported medicines and the doctor's bribes were bleeding the family dry. The final tally, whether his father lived or died, would be more than 100,000 yuan, which happened to be more or less what Song had borrowed from his father to set up the agency a year before. Neither his father nor his sister had mentioned it, but Song couldn't help replaying in his mind how his father had queued outside the bank to withdraw his life savings, money scrimped and saved from a scrawny income. His father had pressed wads of notes into his son's hands, and Song had accepted with gratitude, never dreaming how badly his father would need the cash, and how soon. Song looked back towards the brothel, determined not to miss the husband. In Chinese, the massage parlour was called the Fragrant Companion. It had an English name too, and Song sounded out the letters one by one under his breath. O-R-G-A-S-I-N. Then tried the whole word. Orgasin. He didn't recognize it, but then he'd had only a couple of years of English in school, and his teacher had had less than that. He noticed that a black Santana with a white police number plate was parked on the other side of the road further down. It looked unoccupied, but given the dark street and the tinted windows, he couldn't say for sure. Inside the glass-fronted brothel, two girls sat on a sofa in the glow of pink neon. It was a slow night. They huddled, chatting and knitting around an electric heater, its red bars almost touching their shins. Each wore a white down-filled jacket and high-heeled white boots that came to their knees, but underneath Song could see cleavage and thighs exposed. Their cheeks were rouged, their lips glossed purple, their hair dyed yellow. A rainbow of bravado. He wondered whether the women were frightened of their customers. Did they pay heed to rumour, or did their work require the quashing of imagination? Song was afraid that if they spotted him loitering in the car, they might come and extract him like a snail from its shell, then carry him across the street and have their way with him whether he liked it or not. Once, on a business trip to Hainan Island, he had answered a knock at his hotel room door at midnight, thinking there was some emergency. He'd found a woman standing in the hallway. She had pressed herself hard up against him and attempted to kiss him. He'd been too sleepy to be interested, and too sleepy to resist. Then, when he refused to invite her in, she had demanded 200 yuan in payment for services rendered, although of course he had required none, and she had rendered none. Song had refused to pay, and she had threatened to shout rape. In the end, he'd haggled her down to 100 yuan, paid her off, and returned to his bed. Tonight, Song had already snapped a series of pictures for the client's album. The husband getting out of his car, pushing open the glass door of the brothel, a girl rising from her seat to attach herself to his arm, pushing and pulling him while he laughed and pretended to protest through the heavy velvet curtain into the back room. But he knew what every client really wanted. A photograph of genitalia gave an aggrieved wife excellent leverage. The two girls were looking out at the car now and giggling. One of them got to her feet, tugging her skirt down over her thighs. She pulled open the door and, hunching her shoulders against the cold, picked her way across the icy street and straight for him. She stopped by his car and rapped on the window. Sighing, he turned the key in the ignition, pressed a button, and the window hummed down. The woman bent and leaned in so that her face was just inches from his, and he could smell garlic and rice and cheap scent. "Want to come and play?" Song shook his head. "Aren't you afraid? Someone would pull a knife on you." "Are you threatening me?" Her voice, uneducated, heavily accented, was loud and challenging. Her eyes ran over the long body folded into the driving seat, the broad shoulders, the long bespectacled face, and the shaved head. She smiled. "I know you. You're the man who lives on alley number 10. I've seen you around. I'll give you a discount." "I've never seen you before in my life."